You should go skating on the thin ice of modern life.
Can I just make this video about my favourite Pink Floyd songs? No? No, you'd kill me? Yeah, you'd kill me. Yeah, I just wanted to do that instead, because then I would have an excuse to skate around the issue. See what I did there? Thin ice, skate around the... Sorry. Because I'd then have an excuse to skate around the issue that by the end of Season 9, just before Face the Raven, yeah, I will admit now that I'd kind of almost all but given up hope on Doctor Who. And you know, then Hellbent happened and the two-punch of awesome that was Face the Raven and Heaven Sent appeared to have been a blip. And you know, then we had 2 Christmas specials coming up, and as a result, I wasn't exactly looking forward to Season 10. And yet, here we are, and this is the 3rd positive review I've had to make for it in a row. Alright, I hold my hands up, it was possible. Doctor Who has gotten good again. I was wrong. Though I wasn't as impressed with Thin Ice as I was with Smile. Smile was a high-concept sci-fi piece that plays on a commonplace bit of technology, which is kinda my bread and butter, and given I'm currently trying to write a book dealing with similar themes, yeah, my preoccupation with the sort of thing that Smile does probably coloured my opinion of it a bit. Whereas Thin Ice, on the other hand, is more interested in immersing the viewer in a period of history, with its foreboding sci-fi elements sat just out of reach and in the distance, and they slowly break down that veneer of historical realism over the course of the runtime. Which isn't as much my thing as what Smile does, but Big Finish's companion chronicles do that sort of thing all the time, and I do find it incredibly entertaining. And it's the ideal kind of episode to follow on from Smile. Yeah, essentially what Season 10's done up until this point is a direct reflection of the structure of early Season 1. Down-to-earth introduction of a new companion, high-concept futuristic sci-fi piece, horror-centered period piece. And while it is kind of an obvious way to set up the season, there is a very good reason to do it this way in the opening 3 episodes. Because what this means is that so far we've had a flavour of almost everything that Doctor Who typically offers on a regular basis. None of the episodes are too self-indulgent and self-aggrandizing, they're restrained, know their limits, they're short and succinct, they get the job done and tied up in 45 minutes, they're very easygoing and they're pretty ideal for new people to just sort of dive into. Case in point here, I love that opening exchange where Bill's asking the Doctor about the ramifications of time travel. You know, the old, if she steps on a butterfly or something, won't that change the future conundrum? This exchange pretty much plays out as a self-aware response to a massive chunk of my Hellbent review where I started blathering on about changing the future and cause and effect. Which, okay, yes, 1, the jokes about the person that Bill's supposed to have just made not exist are downright hilarious, and 2, this response to Bill bringing up cause and effect kinda makes sense in this context. Cause in a story like Hellbent, which is underpinned by the butterfly effect, Clara has and probably will end up having a profound impact on the future, and Hellbent draws a lot of attention to, and yet at the same time presents us with pretty much no consequences for using time travel to stop someone from dying, which kinda nullifies the time-old problem with time travel fiction of if you can just go back in time and save anyone with no consequences, why doesn't the owner of the time machine just do that with everyone? However, in this instance, when the butterfly effect is mentioned, this sort of jokey way of establishing the Doctor and Bill's current adventure as a more casual, sightseeing form of time travel, you can travel back in time, just try and make as small an impact on the past as possible. Just do shit within reason. This is incredibly appropriate in my opinion. Think of exploring the past like you're exploring a nature reserve. You take nothing but photos and leave nothing but footprints. You can explore, you can look at stuff, talk to people, just don't worry about it and try not to do anything stupid. This exchange served a great purpose, especially given Season 10, at least until this point, has been playing out as a jumping on point for newcomers. Bill's close to fourth wall breaking questions have been so good for the show. They really help the viewer understand time travel narratives. It's well written, engaging, sort of makes sense in context, and it makes it so the integral problems of time travel fiction don't overburden and compound the narrative. I fucking love this. This is beautiful. And I feel that the time travel as visiting a nature reserve parallel is pretty apt in this episode in particular for a whole plethora of reasons, because between this and her last episode, Face the Raven, Sarah Dollard's more an environment writer, as opposed to Cottrell Boyce, who's more a metaphysical theme writer. Through a script filled with little moments of colour and character and detail, she's crafted a compelling narrative out of an immersive environment. She's just sort of letting the main characters explore it, run into new people. These little moments, like the one with the trickster and the scenes with the street kids, they work wonders to flesh this environment out. All of this adds up to making the viewer feel like you're actually there in the time period. These kids are some bloody good actors too, by the way. The script has really just brought the best out of the child actors here. My appreciating the street urchins probably has something to do with the circumstances. These are smart kids who figured out how to survive on their own, which is a fantasy that moody kids like myself would always indulge in. It was part of why I was such a huge fan of Digimon when I was a kid, because you want to be independent, you want to prove yourself. If I was watching this when I was younger, I just know I would bloody love this angle. Also, the fact that this is one of few episodes of Doctor Who to actually kill a child character on screen adds to that. It makes the situation legitimately life-threatening to the characters. This is a story about an arrangement where kids are literally being ground up for profit. It is fucking dangerous and really, really dark and gnarly now that I think about it. Especially by New Who standards. And I love the shit out of this. The dark and twisted angles of Thin Ice aren't forced and gimmicky like, say, a 90s comic book would be. They've arisen organically from the story's premise. It doesn't labour its dark moments too heavily, and it never holds back from brutality for a second. It doesn't hold itself to ludicrously close-minded ideas about what should theoretically constitute a kid's show. Very importantly, it doesn't reveal, and it turns out that that kid didn't die after all. Be happy, children, everything is lovely and death isn't real. While it does give the kids a happy ending, it doesn't shy away from and delegitimise the teeth and grit that it spent the bulk of the episode indulging in. Another thing that I find interesting is the fact that Thin Ice doesn't gloss over the fact that the past was actually a pretty openly racist place, like the show has kinda done quite a lot in the past. But Thin Ice didn't make any compromises in making this depiction of the past feel as real and dangerous as possible, so why should it skate around the racism issue here? I mean, yes, Lord Sutcliffe is a bit of a caricature. Well, actually, no, a really, really fucking blunt and clumsy caricature. Pretty much all of his dialogue openly acknowledges the fact that he's the bad guy, when bad guys are supposed to not realise they're the bad guys, aren't they? But I did enjoy the scene, primarily because of the Doctor's little speech here about what defines a life. It was a truly flooring little speech for me. I know everyone always bangs on about the speech at the end of the Zygon inversion, but this is the 12th Doctor's best speech so far to me. It's short, succinct, poetic, it's incidental, it's not laboured, it's believable. It's the sort of thing that you just know the Doctor would say in the midst of conversation with someone with a bigoted worldview. As for the monster itself, which I know I haven't exactly talked about yet, because it's probably the least interesting aspect of the story, this isn't exactly uncharted territory for Doctor Who. Massive alien whale thing being exploited and or chained. You got Torchwood's Meat, The Beast Below, and of course Kill the Moon's moral dilemma was based on should we kill or save this creature who may/has in this case killed a bunch of humans. I would be a massive hypocrite if I didn't at the very least mention that. But the reasoning the Doctor offers for saving the creature in this one makes a lot more sense in this scenario to me. It's pretty quick and decisive, and it doesn't labour its points too heavily. In this case, the discussion of what they should do is done and out there pretty quickly, and then we move on to the action. It's very fluid. It doesn't stop the episode to essentially just scream its point in our face. Overall, I really enjoyed Thin Ice because it didn't feel patronising to me. It doesn't coddle you, it doesn't make you feel safe, it's pretty brutal and uncompromising and confrontational. It's not perfect by any means, but it's got some noble artistic intentions behind it, and I do appreciate and respect it for that. Anyway, what else have I got to add? Oh yeah, people keep asking me why I haven't talked about the vault that the Doctor and Nardole are guarding yet, which we actually see in this episode, and there's a knocking coming from inside the vault. Oh my god, what could it be? Okay, the reason I haven't mentioned the vault yet is, God, I just do not care about the mystery box. I am so past them by this point. While I have very much enjoyed Season 10 so far, the few criticisms I've had of it, you know, the mystery box and the entirely forced Dalek appearance, the fact these two things are still here, yes, it is annoying that they haven't dropped it and they've essentially become part of the furniture by now, but they're underplayed and understated, at least in comparison to previous seasons. They don't have as much attention drawn onto them in the pilot, Smile and Thin Ice, as, say, building the entire season around the mystery box. So it doesn't really annoy me that much because it's just conciliatory, at least at this point in the series. As for what's actually inside the mystery box, okay, I know that you probably all know more about it than I do by this point because I'm running a few episodes behind, but let me just have my fun anyway. Prediction Corner, the section of He Who Moans where I try and predict what will happen in future episodes. This time, I'll be answering the question, what's inside the Doctor and Nardole's? It's something to do with the Master, alright? There is no way that it is not something to do with the Master. Master, Master, Master. Or the Angels, Daleks or Cybermen or whatever. If it is anything else, I will be seriously impressed.